On August 1st, 2023, after just receiving warning signals on its dashboard, NASA made a very disturbing announcement. They've lost contact with Voyager 2. The spacecraft, probably older than most people alive today, is now over 12 billion miles from Earth, floating beyond the edge of the solar system, where sunlight is just a feint and no signal ever comes back. But then, something does. A feeble heartbeat returns to Earth. Just a small, steady pulse on NASA's monitor, a proof that Voyager is still out there. It didn't respond at first. Then 3 days later, Voyager moves, turns, and points its antenna back at Earth.
Well, there's hope that NASA could regain control of the lost Voyager 2 probe after a heartbeat signal was picked up.
Nobody told it to or knows how, and that's when the real questions began. Was this a warning sign? And if so, what's it trying to warn us about? It's no news that Voyager 2 was never supposed to last this long. The 1977 spaceship was built to fly past Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and then quietly drift into deep space. That mission ended decades ago, but Voyager kept going. Today, it's in a region called interstellar space, far beyond the planets, a place where even light from the sun can take a full day to reach. NASA still talks to it using the Deep Space Network, a giant system of satellite dishes around the world, but every command sent to Voyager takes about 18 hours to arrive, and another 18 hours to hear back. It's not like a remote control, it's more like sending letters to a ghost ship. The spacecraft runs on a small amount of plutonium. Its computer has less memory than a digital watch, and yet, after all this time, it was still following orders, until it suddenly wasn't.
The spacecraft launched in 1977 was lost when a wrong command was sent, tilting its antenna 2 degrees away from Earth.
Voyager wasn't supposed to think for itself, but somehow it did this time, and scientists are asking, did it act alone? On July 21st, 2023, engineers at NASA sent a routine command to Voyager 2. It wasn't anything dramatic. These types of transmissions are part of regular maintenance, carefully crafted and tested before being beamed across space. But something went wrong. Somewhere along the journey, a single instruction caused the spacecraft to tilt its antenna slightly, just 2 degrees. That may sound like nothing, but when you're more than 12 billion miles from Earth, 2 degrees is the difference between communication and total silence. Suddenly, there was no contact. The probe didn't respond whatsoever. It was as if the line had gone dead. The Deep Space Network tried again, and again, there was nothing. From Earth's end, all systems were fine. But Voyager wasn't listening. Engineers knew the antenna was now misaligned and that they had no way to steer it back. There's no joystick or remote override to steer things back to normalcy. It seems Voyager was alone now, out in the interstellar void. Scientists didn't expect anything strange to happen, until it did. What was it? A few days later, one of the giant antennas of the Deep Space Network picked up a very faint signal. It wasn't a message or a full data stream. It was just a carrier wave, a low, steady pulse, barely detectable, but still there. Engineers described it like hearing a heartbeat through a wall. It had no content, but it was alive. Voyager hadn't shut down. It was still trying to transmit, even though it couldn't hear anything from Earth. But how was that possible in the first place? In interstellar space, where sunlight is 400 times weaker than it is near Earth, Voyager runs on a nuclear battery nearing the end of its life. Its antenna was off course. It shouldn't have been able to hold a clean signal, so how was it still trying to connect? And more importantly, how was that signal reaching us at all? NASA had no ready solution. If the probe didn't reorient itself, they'd lose contact for good. Yet they couldn't guide it without feedback. It was a trap with no obvious exit. After 3 tense days of silence, engineers at NASA's Canberra Deep Space Network sent what they called a shout, a high-powered correction command aimed squarely at Voyager's direction. They didn't expect much. The probe's antenna was misaligned and the craft was old beyond belief. Yet, on August 4th, Voyager rotated. It turned its antenna precisely toward Earth and restored full communication. There was no confirmation it received that shout, no acknowledgement flag or anything like that, yet it moved. Voyager wasn't programmed to do this, at least not under those circumstances, yet it did perfectly. In the cold dark of interstellar space, a 46-year-old machine adjusted itself across billions of miles without instruction. And when that happened, NASA had to pause. Voyager 2 is so old, its onboard computer has just 69.63 kilobytes of memory, less than a basic calculator. Your toaster probably has more computing power than that, as one NASA engineer jokingly noted. And still, Voyager engineered its own rescue. So how did it know? How did it decide to turn? And most unsettling of all, how did it do it so precisely? But it didn't stop there. Once communications were restored, engineers downloaded Voyager's memory buffer, and they found something unexpected: data anomalies. These were small pockets of memory that looked like they had been written to by something else. Imagine walking into a house you haven't visited in years, opening the mailbox and finding letters addressed to someone you've never met. You'd want to know how they got there, right? We don't know if it was magnetic interference or an unexpected energy burst, NASA said through cautious press statements. But data packets were different. Solar wind, after all, doesn't reach Voyager at this depth. It shouldn't have left fingerprints on memory, and yet something did. Could something else have brushed the craft as it drifted? Something invisible, but powerful enough to nudge its electronics? If such a thing can leave small traces in memory, what else might it be touching? From there, the hardest questions started to surface. Voyager is traveling through the interstellar medium, a realm of near vacuum, only the faintest trace particles and almost no fields that could affect a spacecraft. It drifts like a silent ghost, yet the plasma wave sensor picked up signs of distortion. Tiny ripples in the local magnetic field are untraceable, but real. It was described as similar to feeling pressure, where there shouldn't be any, like noticing a stale breeze brushing past the outline of a candle flame. So what exactly did Voyager drift through, and why did it react? Could something have passed nearby? Each new clue felt like a ghostly whisper in the empty dark. Scientists saw an unmanned craft, silently guided, data packets no one sent, and fields warped without known cause. Voyager was meant to be a drifting relic. Instead, it became a silent listener, or perhaps an accidental contact point. And with every unexpected move, we face more questions. If Voyager can correct itself, what else has it learned? If something brushed its memory, what else shared that space with it? The more NASA examined the data, the more they admitted the mission had crossed a line, from routine probe to quiet enigma. If Voyager wasn't alone, who else might be out there? And if someone else was watching, should we have been afraid? When engineers looked deeper into Voyager's bizarre behavior, the real questions began to surface. Not just about what happened, but why. The first theory proposed a natural echo, that some signal had bounced off the boundary of the heliopause and returned either as noise, a simple misfire, or a delay. But there was a problem with this conjecture. There's nothing out there known to reflect radio signals. The interstellar medium is sparse and almost empty, and according to space weather records, no solar flare strong enough occurred in that window. So, if it wasn't solar interference, what was the signal riding on? And here's the deeper question: what kind of space can echo a signal, but stay invisible to science? And then there's the second theory of dark plasma pockets or subspace distortion. Some astrophysicists speculated that Voyager might have passed through an exotic zone, an uncharted region of charged particles that altered the way energy moved. It's like sailing into fog, one researcher described. Only the fog bends your compass and makes your sails hum. There's no hard evidence for such pockets, but the magnetic distortions Voyager registered before the signal shift, however subtle, suggests something warped the space around it. There are no current models that predict this kind of field behavior, said one plasma physicist at Caltech. So the question becomes, what do we call space when it doesn't behave like space anymore? Then there is Theory 3. Was this a self-correcting AI glitch? This theory pointed inward to Voyager itself. Could its primitive fault protection routines have triggered an internal correction? Voyager has fail-safes, yes, but this behavior went beyond anything it was ever coded to do. Rotating, recalibrating, and reconnecting without confirmation from Earth? No existing logic path supports that sequence. NASA's own internal memo put it bluntly: it's like discovering your old car parked itself in a garage it didn't know existed. Could a 1970s machine improvise? And if it did, then the next question is far more unsettling. What else is this old probe doing that we don't understand? Scientists couldn't know until they looked at the fourth theory: external intelligence or interference. This is where the speculation turns cold and quiet, because once you rule out internal code and natural causes, what's left? One fringe theory gaining quiet traction, at least in back-channel circles, is that Voyager was helped, that something else nudged it, not to destroy or hijack it, but just to help it get back in touch. A drifting probe billions of miles away, corrected by something that didn't want it lost.
And finally, NASA on Tuesday said that it has found a heartbeat signal from the Voyager 2 probe.
And if that's true, then we have to ask, what kind of presence sees a lonely probe and chooses to respond? What else is out there listening beyond our reach? Surprisingly, all the evidence lines up too clean, and strangely, Voyager didn't just drift back online, it turned when no one told it to, it moved and aligned without orders. That's not a coincidence at all, that's precision, and when something moves precisely across 12 billion miles with no prompt error code or fallback logic, it isn't random. This didn't seem like recovery at all, it seemed like a response. It seemed like something helped, like something reached in and said, not yet. And the worst part of it all is we still don't know if we were the ones being watched or warned.
For nearly a half a century, 2 silent Voyagers have traveled across the solar system.
Voyager 2 is still alive, but it's clear that its time is running out. As its radioactive heart grows weaker each year, its voice will eventually fade. And still, it chose to whisper back. We built it to explore, to wave hello into the silence. But what if the silence waved first? A science probe drifting alone in the dark now feels less alone. And if this broken, outdated machine can be reached or guided, then what else is drifting out there that we haven't noticed? What if this wasn't a malfunction? What if it was a message? Have we thought about the fact that maybe Voyager didn't just lose contact? Maybe it was told to wait.